Hey guys, it is Christmas cookie time, which means I got some keto cookie recipes for you. Today we're doing 3 different recipes: a keto peanut butter blossom, a keto sugar cutout cookie, and a keto whipped shortbread. So let's get started. Welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And here we make delicious pastries, many from my time as a pastry chef. And my goal is to make the best keto desserts possible. So if you enjoy these recipes, please consider hitting the subscribe button down there, hitting the thumbs up, leaving me a comment. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new keto desserts every Saturday. Today, 3 awesome keto cookie recipes. And I know I wish one of them was a French macaroon, but it has been eluding me for the last 2 months. I've been working on this and I'm getting the look and the texture of the outside perfect, but the inside of the macaroon is just not the marshmallowy, soft macaroon that I want. So I'm gonna keep working on it, but if I just kept working on that, I'd never get videos out. So I had to try some other cookies, which there are a ton of different cookie recipes. So I thought I'd bring you 3 today. First one we're gonna be doing is the peanut butter blossom, because it has to chill in the fridge for about an hour, and we can make the other 2 cookie recipes. So I got a stick of butter, so a 1/2 cup of butter, and a 1/2 cup of peanut butter. Creamy, natural peanut butter, just peanuts. I use Crazy Richard's. It's 2 carbs for 2 tablespoons. So that's only 8 carbs of peanut butter in this recipe. And I already have a 1/4 cup of granular Monkfruit and a 1/4 cup of golden Monkfruit in my mixing bowl. Now this does have to whip for about 8 minutes or so. But before we start that, I'm going to show you the dry ingredients that we're doing, because we have to sift them and whisk them. This is just 40 grams of unflavored whey protein isolate and 15 grams of coconut flour. Actually, that's just the whey protein. Just kidding. And then in here is the coconut flour. And then I added 1 tablespoon of gelatin and 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum to hold your cookie together. You can't even tell that it's a keto cookie because the gelatin and the xanthan gum act as binders that we don't have because we have no gluten. And then the gelatin gives a little bit of a chew to the cookie also. At this point, you'd have salt too if you're using unsalted butter, about a 1/2 teaspoon. And then just a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And that's all going in there. You sift this together. I sift in the air because my bowl is too small. So get initial most of that stuff down in there. Of course, I can't find my baby whisk. Here I thought I was all set up. Whisk this together just so you distribute that xanthan gum and the baking soda. Had my eggs soaking in some warm water, 1 egg and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're gonna beat this until it's super light and fluffy. Of course, we're gonna be stopping to scrape down a bunch of times so that it gets all nicely incorporated. Okay, you can see the color change in there. Give it 1 more mix and then we're gonna add our 1 egg. Now you can use all golden Monkfruit sweetener or you can use all classic sweetener. I was just going off a recipe that I found online. I went and took a regular recipe and figured out the keto version, and the one I found was 1/2 and 1/2. So, and I always have them on hand. You like them for different applications. Maybe one of these days I'll do like a pantry, like this is what I think you need for any kind of baking you want to do. Especially because at work now I'm doing keto desserts, and like every time I went to go make a dessert, I'm like, oh crap, I need that too. Oh crap, I need that. And you can't get it at any food distributors. I have to order it online or pick it up at a store. You're all scraped down in there. Add your 1 room temperature egg. It is kind of important to have room temperature because it almost separates if you add a cold egg in, because when you add the cold egg, it makes the butter cold again. So you'll get like it looks chunky, and it'll just take you longer to whip it and actually incorporate the egg. It'll probably happen eventually, but it'll take a while because you need it to come up to the same temperature as your butter is. Also add in your 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and give it a whip until it's incorporated. See, it kind of looks separated, but if it was cold, it would be even more separated than it is. See, it came together pretty quick. just got to give it a scrape down because you got some egg that sticks to the bottom and such. Like, as soon as my camera's rolling, my cats go nuts. Once you don't see any egg streaks anywhere, you're incorporated. You can add in all your dry ingredients at once. Trying not to spill any, which I actually didn't for once. And start slow, you don't want this stuff all over. One scrape down, make sure all your dry is incorporated. This is a very sticky dough, which is why we need to refrigerate it for a little while. That way we can roll it into balls. And then when I'm doing a dough that's kind of stickier than this, I turn my mixer on and kind of let the beater kind of shoot off all the dough. You gotta be careful though, because sometimes it shoots out of the bowl. That got our paddle mostly clean. And then I'm just gonna transfer this to a bowl because we need to get on to our next recipe and we need our mixer. Okay, I'm gonna pop this into the refrigerator. It can stay in there for as long as you want, at least an hour though. If you wanna do this quicker, if you're not making other batches of cookie, you can spread it out a little bit and it'll chill quicker. It'll only have to be like a half an hour if you put it in like a really thin coat in your bowl, but we got other stuff to make, so this is just gonna chill until we're ready to roll it. Okay, on to recipe number 2. We're gonna start with a stick of butter, again, into the mixer. And you'll see a theme with all these. You gotta beat your butter and sweetener together. It creates less crystallization in your baked goods. It makes them more like a normal cookie. Which you do this with regular too. It's just we gotta do it a little bit longer than a regular cookie recipe. To that, I'm adding just straight classic monk fruit sweetener. This is 96 grams or half a cup. All these recipes, you can get that going and get all the rest of your ingredients ready while that's whipping. It saves you time, and weighing will definitely also save you time. So much easier to just dump and sprinkle onto a scale than it is to try and figure out how to scoop. You gotta ladle the scoop in, level it off. It's much easier to just weigh these out. So this one I did 80 grams of the unflavored whey protein powder. Now I like the brand Isopure, but I'm sure other ones will work. And also you could do flavored ones. I haven't tried with these particular recipes, but I do use a chocolate one in my chocolate cake and it works great. But it does add some carbs a lot of times, so you just gotta keep that in mind. And then just 30 grams of coconut flour. And then in this, we're doing a half teaspoon of baking powder. Baking powder makes it not rise as much as a soda does. You don't want like a super domed sugar cookie. You want a nice flat sugar cookie. So that's why we're using baking powder in this. And we don't need gelatin because we don't need it chewy. We just need it kind of soft and we want it to stay together. So we got the xanthan gum in there. A half teaspoon of xanthan gum. Add that to that. Sift them all and whisk them all. And again, we're doing 1 room temperature egg. And this is completely up to you. If you have a specific sugar cookie recipe that you like from, adulthood or childhood, I'm doing a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of almond extract. So it's up to you on the flavoring. I know some people put like anise flavoring in their sugar cookies. Feel free to do that. I'm gonna get this whipping. We only gotta whip it for about 5 minutes. The amount of whipping also depends on how soft your butter is. My butter's been out for a couple of days on the counter, because I knew I was going to be needing a bunch of butter today. So 5 minutes, because my butter is definitely room temperature. If your butter's still a little bit chilled from the fridge, you might need to whip this longer. Okay, once you are nice and whipped up, time to add your 1 room temperature egg. And I'm adding my vanilla extract and almond. You want it to become a pretty harmonious mixture, homogenized mixture. You don't want it to look too like scrambled eggs. I get that all mixed up. You see it's not really separated anymore. It's not like curdleized looking. You're gonna add in all your dry ingredients. You want it to come together like a dough. Okay, once you're all together, we are going to chill this one for a little while, but we're going to roll it out before we even chill it. That way it's like ready to go, and it'll be easier to cut them and pick them up. What I do, of course, keto baked goods, keto doughs, always easier if you just use parchment paper. So this is a nice firm dough. Pat it into kind of a circle. need my rolling pin. See if we can do it without parchment on top. I have my bands on for 1/4 inch. That's what you want this at. Might as well just do the parchment on top too. I can see this going badly. Obviously you can double this. This makes 18 small stars. So it's not a ton like most cookie recipes you do for like cookie exchanges. You know, they make like 3 dozen cookies or 4, you know, usually bigger batches. This is just a small batch of sugar cookie dough. Make sure it's all nice and even, which I think we are. This thing does come in good handy for stuff like this. When you know it needs to be a 1/4 inch, you got your bands on there. So this is the cookie sheet I'm going to be using. You need the most space for this cookie. You might still not be able to get all 18 on the one sheet tray. I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator to chill while we make our whipped shortbread. So I'll clean up once again and I'll meet you back here to do cookie recipe number 3. Now recipe number 3 is super easy, like super easy. It is just a whipped shortbread recipe. I took a regular whipped shortbread and I made it keto, and it's pretty much the simplest of ingredients. The only thing I had to do was figure out our flour because we can't use regular flour. The original recipe is butter, powdered sugar, which we're using Lakanto powdered Monkfruit sweetener, which I actually did run out of powdered sweetener, and I ran some classic through a coffee grinder to get the powdered sweetener. So we're starting with 1 stick of butter again. And this is just 30 grams of powdered monk fruit sweetener, or 1/4 cup. And we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna whip this up until it's super light and fluffy. While that's going, you can do your dry ingredients. And this is just 40 grams of unflavored whey protein isolate, 15 grams of coconut flour, and just a little bit of xanthan gum to hold it all together. There's no egg in this and no rising agent. It's just all from whipping up the butter and the sweetener together. Give that a whisk. Start the butter. Whoa, flinging butter. And before I forget, I'm gonna preheat my oven to 300 degrees because once this dough's done, we're scooping it and getting it into the oven. With the powdered, you definitely don't have to whip as long because you're not trying to break up those granules as much, but you want to make sure it's all nice and fluffy still. Okay, we're super pale colored. We are good to go. The only other ingredient is a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're going to put that in and whip it together and then add our dry ingredients. Oven's ready. This isn't a lot of ingredients, so we gotta make sure it's all in there. A little bit of dry ingredients. Gotta get all that off there. Okay, don't need this guy. We are done with them. Okay, so I just went by their recipe pretty much. They said about a tablespoon of dough. And I know for a fact that this is about a tablespoon. So it's so much easier to use measuring scoops for cookies, and it makes the process so much quicker. So I just scoop them all out onto a tray. They don't spread too much, like little kind of, if you've seen them, they're like little like shortbread cookies. Apparently this makes 13. I couldn't remember. I did this test and then we like ate the cookies like right away, and I didn't even write down how many it made. Add a little bit to each one. We have a tiny bit of batter left. But this whole batch is only 5 grams of net carbs. Now you go and you roll them into a ball, which I always sucked at rolling. I don't know why. It always never made like a ball for me. I don't know. Something's wrong with my hands, I guess. Like whenever I do this, it always ends up like that. Like a dreidel on both sides or something. Even when I used to make meatballs with my dad when I was younger. Could never roll them right. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to have some powdered sugar to dip my forks in. I don't have any more. See if we can do without it. It might stick. Supposed to do like that. Not too bad. But if you have powdered sweetener, it'd probably be a good idea. If you have a better fork than me, it'd be a good idea. In the recipe, it said like you can put like colored sugar, which looks really nice on theirs. I made my own colored sugar. I just put a tiny bit of red food coloring in my classic Monkfruit sweetener. It doesn't stay granular on top though. It kind of just melts, but it gives a nice color to your cookie. So it's up to you if you want to do red and green sugar on top. Red and green would meld together and, you know, look kind of Christmassy. There you go. So these go in for 10 to 11 minutes. You don't want to bake them too much. You never want to over bake keto baked goods. They tend to get really dry. So I'm going to put these in for 5. I'm going to spin them and do another 5. I almost forgot, we got to make a buttercream frosting to frost our sugar cookies with. And you can do this at any point, obviously. But buttercream is very simple. It's just butter and powdered sweetener. And then you add whatever flavoring you want. The thing with ours is powdered monkfruit erythritol was the only thing I found that works for a buttercream frosting. But I don't like the cooling effect of too much powdered sweetener. And to get a traditional buttercream, you have to have a lot of powdered sweetener. Like, I'm talking the one that hardens on your sugar cookies. So if you do make this recipe, just know that it's not going to harden on top of your cookies. It's only 56 grams of powdered sweetener to 1 stick of butter. You probably need to double that if you want it to harden on your cookie. And then because I need to make it sweeter without adding more of the erythritol, I bought a Monkfruit extract powder. It literally comes with the littlest spoon. I think it's 1/32nd teaspoon per serving for this. That's how powerful this is. So I'm only gonna do 1/8 of a teaspoon for this whole batch of frosting. I'm gonna add that right into my powdered monk fruit. Our whipped shortbread are done and out of the oven. You see there's a bunch of butter that has leaked out of the cookies, but that absorbs back into the cookie and makes it super soft and light and fluffy. So don't worry if you see a bunch of butter pooling on your pan, it'll all soak back up into the cookies. So I'm gonna whip up my butter and then I'm gonna sift this right into the butter once I have it whipped up. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract, but you can add any flavoring you want. So if you don't have the pure monk fruit extract powder, you can also use stevia. It came a super small scoop also. Did I put it back in here? I did. This is the size of the scoop that they give you. Super tiny. The monk fruit is probably only 1/4 of this. That's how little you need of that. So you might need a little bit more than 1/8 of a teaspoon of stevia in your frosting. Just add it and taste it like little by little to figure out the sweetness you prefer. That's nice and whipped up. I'm gonna get my smaller sifter for this. I ground up some of the classic for this, which I do not recommend doing that for frosting because it is still a little grainy. It's fine for if you're doing it inside of baked good, but for frosting, it's still gonna be grainy no matter how much you process it. What I ended up having to do at work was actually put butter and the sweetener, I had to put it in a food processor and whip the crap out of it to try and not have it grainy for me because I really did not want grainy cream cheese frosting. In a pinch, it does do the job. It's just not as good as if you already had it powdered. Start on low speed, and I forgot mine has no low speed. So I'm gonna give it a mix first because that crap's gonna go everywhere. Last time I did my stand mixer for this, it's kind of overkill for your stand mixer. Oh, and I bought both these products on Amazon. They are pretty expensive, but if you're just using it as directed for like, this says 1/32nd of a teaspoon is equal to 2 teaspoons of sugar. So this pack will last you a long time if you're using it just to sweeten your coffee in the morning or something like that. We want a nice, smooth, spreadable consistency. We gotta add in our vanilla extract too. Did 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Do whatever you like. Another thing I hate about this is that you got all that on the beater, and I went up to the highest level and it still didn't all come off. Got all that frosting on there and it's a pain to get off. Okay. We'll set that aside for frosting our sugar cookie cutouts. Now on to baking our peanut butter blossoms. Now you may be wondering what we're gonna do for the Hershey Kiss. And no, I did not do something really super complicated and like buy a Hershey Kiss mold. I am just doing milk chocolate chips from Lily's, and I'm putting about 12 in the center of each cookie. And I actually like it better because I always loved peanut butter blossoms, but I hated trying to bite into a Hershey Kiss and like the rest of the cookie just falls apart. This alleviates that problem because they're all individual chips and like they kind of melt and like pool together a little bit, but not all the way, and they're almost still like individuals, and it makes it perfect. I think they're better than peanut butter blossoms in my opinion, but that's just me. You let me know in the comments below. But we're gonna scoop these. The dough is still really soft. I'm using my black handled ones now. These will be linked down below. They're pretty much the same as my silver one, only it's a tiny bit bigger. So I just like don't fill it all the way. I just kind of divot it out a little bit. And I hate scooping and rolling like one at a time because I have to keep putting this down. I like to just scoop all my cookies and then roll them all at once. So I'm gonna scoop all these out. You should get about 24 cookies. You can also freeze this dough. You wanna do everything pretty much, smush them down a little bit and freeze them flat, and then you can throw them into a Ziploc bag. And I'll have in the full recipe the ways you can bake them. So if you wanna make these all in advance and get them into the freezer, and then come Christmas time, you will have a bunch of cookies. I always plan ahead. That's kind of what I do. I know some of you out there might wanna do the same. These pretty much are the exact same size as regular peanut butter blossoms. They do puff up and spread out, so make sure about 2 inches apart on your cookie sheet. I am gonna have to do 2 batches of this because it is a little bit more dough. Do keep it in the fridge if you're like doing multiple batches, just so it doesn't get too soft on you. Before I forget, we gotta up our temperature to 350 for these guys. So I just have some classic granular monk fruit here. You can use Swerve if you want. I just don't prefer the cooling effect of straight erythritol. So that's just me. So you roll this guy in your sugar, put them back on. You just wanna tap down a tiny bit. You don't need a lot, you need a little bit of help. I think that one I did even a little too much. You can just do a little tiny bit. I'm so bad at rolling. Never get it round. I think being Italian, I'd be able to do this. And you want to have your chocolate chip laid out and ready to go, because as soon as they come out, you got to squish them in there, get them in so the cookies don't harden before you get them in. Using all Lily's milk chocolate, whole batch is 35 net carbs. You get 24 cookies, that's 1.5 per cookie. And that's if you use 144 grams of chocolate chips, which I'm guessing that's almost a cup. Our oven's ready. But that's if you go and count 12 chips in each cookie. But I'm kind of anal like that, so I kind of do that. But so you can use more or less. All up to you. Just figure out your own macros. If you use Chalk Zero or something, which I like their products, I just haven't really used them much. Ooh, which reminds me, I'll show you another thing you can do. Grab it out of the fridge. These are going in for 10 minutes. 5 turn 5. As soon as they come out, you gotta be ready to get your chocolate chips in there. So if you have any peanut butter cups lying around that are keto, you can put those in your cookies. I didn't prefer it actually. I actually just liked the chocolate chips, but I didn't try it after it was like solid. And I think it was a little bit too big for me. Like these ones are the smallest cups that I've seen, like keto cups. But I still think like doing maybe only a half of one in a cookie would be delicious. So I think I'm gonna do that in a couple of them. Back here when those get out of the oven. Okay, as soon as they come out of the oven, start putting your chips in. You wanna push them down real good in the middle. So you can count out 12 chips you want, but you wanna push them down nice. They get that soft mushiness in the middle. Oh, wait, got 6 left. Gotta do one of these in there. I should say, they're not a sponsor. I don't got no sponsors. Okay, so we just gotta let those cool. Okay, I just finished my peanut butter blossoms and I got 27 cookies. I actually took away 72 grams of my chips for those 6 that I did with the Chalk Zero peanut butter cups, and I still had plenty of chocolate chips. So 144 grams of Lily's milk chocolate chips is plenty for even 27 cookies. So let's get on to our sugar cookie cutouts next. So our sugar cookie dough is hard as a rock right now. So I'm going to use my top piece of parchment. I'm going to cut out some stars. So when it's really hard, they're going to be they'll come right up as you cut. Once they get a little bit softer, they might not do that though. These don't spread a lot, so you can put them kind of close together, just like a regular sugar cookie cutout. Careful they don't break on you. It is a very hard dough right now because the butter is really cold. So put even pressure down, and when you go to put it on the paper, even pressure on the cookie. That guy cracked a little bit, so we're not going to go there. We'll use that to re-roll. The nice thing about our dough is we don't have any gluten in it, so re-rolling it is not going to make a tough cookie. And when it starts to get softer, it doesn't come up in the mold anymore. Obviously, you can use any cookie cutters you want. Oh, and I wasn't paying attention. Well, that guy ain't going to be used. Go here. So if it doesn't come up in your mold, mini offset spatula, love this guy. We'll be using him to frost with too. Once you're there, what I do, so I don't have to use another piece of parchment paper, I'll put it all on one side and I'll fold it over. Get all your bits in there. You can pick it up and roll it back into a ball if you want. I just do it this way. You might have to go back in and push it together a little bit. There you go. 1/4 inch thick again. Looks like we're a little bit less here because we had some indentations. Squeeze it back together. Cut out some more stars. Now that you've re-rolled it, they're not going to come up in the cutout for you. Pick them up. Re-roll one more time. Am I going to be able to get 2 out of there? It's close. Do it. Yeah. Am I going to be able to get all 18 on here though? We might have to do some rearranging. Get 2 more out of here. Or do 1 and then 1 more. Yeah, we can get 1 more on there. Can we fit 1 more star? There we go. That 18 sugar cookie cutouts. Now these only bake for 11 minutes. I'll be back to show you them out of the oven, what you want to look for. You don't want to over bake these because they will get dry. Then we got to let these cool and then we can frost them. Okay, I pulled these out of the oven. I left them in 11 minutes and then I left them in for another 30 seconds. So they're going to be super soft when they come out, but you can see they're just starting to get golden brown around the bottoms. You want them nice and soft. Whew, and I'm burning myself. So I'm gonna let these cool and then we're gonna get on to frosting and trying all of these delicious keto cookies. Okay, our sugar cookies are cool enough that we can frost them. So you have a couple different options. Obviously you can color your frosting however you'd like. I ordered some stuff from Perfect Keto, and Perfect Keto and Super Fat are like the same company now. And I'm like, ooh, sprinkles. So I got some sprinkles, but I thought I'd use those. And then you can also do the same sugar trick that we used for the whipped shortbread. You can just sprinkle different color sugars on your sugar cutouts. So I'm just going in kind of rogue. Like, I don't really care if they're like perfect, which is weird for me, right? I just put on a layer of frosting. You can also do a whipped ganache. If you haven't seen my whipped ganache, that's for my chocolate cake recipe. You can do, if you want chocolate icing, you can just do a whipped ganache. That wouldn't have any cooling effect because you're using heavy cream and keto chocolate chip. So that's another option if you want some chocolate sugar cookies. Just gonna frost all these up and decorate them. Okay, I finished frosting all my cookies. I had just enough for all 18, which is perfect. These were delicious with no frosting at all. I brought them into work naked and people were just eating them up even without frosting on them. They are delicious just by themselves. So I'm gonna put some sprinkles on some of these guys. Gotta make them look pretty for the thumbnail. This is cool because these sprinkles are naturally colored. That's a bummer. A lot of them say like beetroot extract or carrot or whatever. This just says natural colors. I know there's some on the market that have colors listed, like what they use to make them. These are festive, not exactly Christmas festive, but I have yet to find Christmas sprinkles keto. So we're gonna have to do what we gotta do, right? Do some of the sugar. I think this will look pretty. Yeah. Sugar, make them all different colors. Okay, so those are our frosted sugar cookie cutouts. They could look prettier, but it is what it is. I'm gonna get all these together and we are gonna try all these different cookies. Look at all our beautiful Christmas cookies. They're so pretty. And I didn't even mention these sugar cookies for the whole batch. Only 10 grams of net carbs. So good. I'm gonna save the peanut butter blossoms for last because those are like my favorite. But we gotta try the sugar cookie. It's just pale on the back. It's soft, doesn't crumble apart on you, tastes like a sugar cookie. So good. And I take not too many bites of all these. Just so light and buttery, delicious. Now these are even more light and fluffy, are whipped shortbread cookies. These are the melt in your mouth texture. So good. They are just so light and fluffy and airy. And they just disintegrate. They're almost like Loft House cookies. I am working on a Loft House recipe. These are very close. So good. And super, super simple to make. And at less than 0.5 per cookie, you have a couple of these with some milk. Absolutely delicious. Feel free to change up the flavorings in those too, because I'm sure almond extract would be delicious in that. And last but not least, our peanut butter blossoms. They're just golden on the bottom, glistening with the sugar granules. And I love that they're not like one big hunk of chocolate, because you can get some chocolate in every bite and it doesn't just break apart on you. They're super light and airy, but they got that right there where the chocolate is. It's like chewy. Oh, it's delicious. Those are by far my favorite. I need some water. These are the perfect cookies if you do cookie exchanges. For a couple years I did do them, and I'm so happy that I have 3 awesome recipes that I could make for a cookie exchange. So I hope you guys enjoy these recipes. If you try them out, let me know in the comments below. You can tag me on Instagram at Keto Upgrade Chef. Send me your pictures of all your delicious baked goods. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe for all 3 of these down in the description box below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.